Hey, and welcome to Chaos, Clarity and Coffee, preferably the other way around. But my name's Saree Hewlett, and if you're somebody who's in business or you're just looking at your health or any other issues you have in life, the one thing that we hope to gain clarity from is knowing where we're headed. And most of us tend to Google a heap amount and find that we get confused and everything before us is chaotic. So grab a coffee and let's get started. What I want to do is explore different ideas, different thoughts every week about how we can make things a little bit easier on ourselves and also just being kinder to ourselves as well. So this week we're talking about the missing piece. So when it's put into kind of a business contact, what we're looking for is the missing piece generally isn't more information. We generally have heaps of information. If anything, we have far too much information. So, it's gone from looking things up in encyclopedias when I was younger to now being able to search the web, being able to ask in different forums, in different groups, getting responses from different people. And we're not afraid anymore to ask for a second opinion, and we're not afraid to research anymore. So we'll have a list of content of why we believe this is going to help us and what our problem is. And too much information is always one thing that creates chaos. How do we get around that? We basically ask other people's opinions. What's helped you? How have you managed? What are we going to do? How are we going to move forward? And the next piece of evidence that we find is backed by more people is probably what we're going to try. The typical thing that comes to mind is we go onto a forum or a local group and we say, who's the best plumber? Recommend a good plumber. Recommend, a good hairdresser. And these are kind of trades that are generally people that you want to trust. So we want somebody who's trustworthy. We also want somebody who we know is good at their job, because if we're investing in something, we want to make sure that it's going to get us what we're asking for. And those type of things are very specific. We want something specific. We want an outcome. We want a tap that stops leaking. We want a hair colour. We want a haircut or a style or something that's easy to manage. So we know exactly what we want, and we want somebody who's going to be able to deliver that to us. When things start going a little bit different is when a lot of the onus is on us to do it. So we're asking people to do something for us. We're asking people to, fix this, do this, build this. And it's quite easy because you've got a request and you've got an outcome. When it comes to things like running a business, when it comes to things like managing your health, it's still very similar. We're asking for a service, but the onus is then kind of placed on us as well. So if we get that haircut, we get what we want, but we have to be able to maintain it. We, get the plumber and we fix the problem, but then we have to make sure that, we don't build up too much pressure or whatever it is that might have caused the problem in the first place. Don't put stupid stuff down the sink that blocks them. And business and health are very similar. So when we're looking at it from a business point of view, we might really want to know, okay, I want to grow my business. So how am I going to do this? How am I going to grow my business? How am I going to improve and get more clients through the door or get my name and awareness out there? So if we have this great business and we think it's great, we need people to know about it. We need people to grow. We need people to help us with that. And if we can't quite manage that, then we're providing this fabulous service, but no one knows about us. So in the business arena, we need people to know about us. And that can be through word of mouth. It can be by doing what I'm doing, making a podcast, doing a blog, signing up for a newsletter, emailing out clients every week, making contact with people who we think would benefit from our service and getting recommendations from others who've had the service to basically say, look, I went to so-and-so and they were fabulous, you've just got to go there. And then from there, we have this kind of plan and go, okay, well, I've got a newsletter, I've got a blog, I've got a podcast, I've got a website, I've got this. How then are people going to come to that? How then, if people see me and they like what I offer, how do they then get to me? So if somebody lands on your website, You're going to want to know, how can they make contact with me? Is there a contact page? Is there something and some information there that sort of really tells them what I do and what I offer? Or is it, okay, there's another, plumber. How do I know that they're any good? However, if we go, okay, here's another hairdresser. How do I know if they're any good? If they then got a link to their Instagram post and you kind of see, oh wow, I love that hair, I love what they've done there, I've seen their processes, I've seen some outcomes. If we're looking at, carpentry, and they've got a link to their Instagram, and they've got all these great makeovers and renovations that they've done, and you can see the quality of their work, then you go, hey, maybe this is something. Or, oh no, I don't like how they work, I don't like their taste. So you've got a good idea because you've landed on their website, you found out, oh, they're this. They've got a link to somewhere that then also shows you more about them. And then you're more likely to think, okay, I've seen them, there's some validation there, let's contact them. Or, not really for me, let's look at the next one. So that's basically what happens when we're looking at how do we market, how do we grow, how do we get people to know about us. So if you land on there, someone is landing on your website, if there's a link to your social media that you think is creative or interesting, that would definitely be a plus. Yes, it will take people away from your website, but it'll bring you to somewhere where they might think, oh, I quite like that, I might follow them and I might kind of see what they're up to. The other side of it is there a contact page? Can the client submit a form and ask you a question? Is there a telephone number? Is there an email contact? Is there some way of that client asking you a question? These days, it's very, very rare that people will go, let's just phone and book an appointment, or let's just phone and get them. Unless we're in an emergency where we've kind of got that situation where it doesn't matter, it's an emergency, the boiler's about to blow, something's about to happen, I need it fixed, and you're in that priority state. In general marketing and things like that, we're really about telling a story. Somebody comes to us, somebody finds us on social media. Can that person see what we do? Can that person kind of gel with us? Can they kind of feel what we're about? And do they like how we're interacting with them? Do they feel comfortable with this? Do they think, okay, this is a person I can get on with. This is a person who seems to know what they're doing. I was chatting to a kind of mutual business owner earlier this morning about, they've gone around and they've done some lunches to potential partners who might refer to them. So they've gone and taken lunch, given them a talk, given them a kind of look into what they would do. And then I kind of said, okay, how's that gone? Have you had any feedback? And they said, they seemed really interested at the time, but I haven't really had anything concrete. So they've made contact, they've brought lunch in, they've given their presentation, people seemed interested, they've gone and said, great, what now? So I followed up and asked, okay, have you got an email list? Have you got some contact from those clients so that you could basically email them in a week after you've seen them, or email them a couple of weeks down the track and say, okay, here's some more information, is there anything you need to know? Or conversely, say, look, I send out a monthly newsletter that's giving you updates about, our business, but also if there's been any changes or things that might be of interest, would you like to be on our newsletter? And that way you're front of mind. There's somebody who is contacting you and said, hi, I've got this great business and I think you'd be beneficial from it, and you think, yeah, okay, but I'm not sure when I need it. That point, maybe 2 months down the track and you need it, you're going to think, oh, I can't remember who they were, especially if you didn't get a business card given out, especially if you haven't got something like a little pamphlet about them where I store my business cards in a drawer, so I can just quickly look through and go, okay, they're all the business members I wanted to remember. If you haven't got that, but they've actually put you an email newsletter once every month or so, you're getting that constant reinforcement from that person. Oh yeah, I remember so-and-so, they brought us lunch and they gave us a presentation. I really liked what they had. Excuse my dog. Now I actually want to use them and I know how to get hold of them. That is one way of following through. You've made the presentation, you've made the connection, and you're trying to be front of mind at the same time. And that way people will remember you. If we've left it and done a presentation and that's it, we haven't done a follow-up, we haven't done anything else to allow them to remember us by, we've given no pamphlets, we've given no business cards, our marketing is kind of made an effort, but it's not really doing the full job for us. We're not really making that connection where they kind of remember, oh, I remember so-and-so, they did this, they brought us lunch, and they did this, and they gave us a mug, and we've got a pad or a list of their pamphlets to hand out to people who might be interested in their services. Let's send it to so-and-so. That's one way to look at it. If people have a connection and they remember you, they are more likely to use you. If they have a connection, they like you, and you've also performed and done a good service for somebody that they've referred to you, and you've sent them the appropriate thanks for referring this is so-and-so, and at the closeout you've said, thank you so much for that referral. It was, a pleasure working with you. This is Joe, he wanted this, and this is what we've done for him. I look forward to working with you again in the future. You've kind of hit them about 4 or 5 times because you've made the connection, you've given them a newsletter, they've referred somebody to you, you've said thank you, you've given them a follow-up email. So you've had 4 or 5 or 6 points of contact. They are more likely to remember you. Does it take a bit of effort? Yes. But then most of us will. Most of us will say thanks. And it could also be in text format. Excuse me, I've just got an itchy nose. It could also just be a text. Follow up, thanks for that. Oh, do you remember, so-and-so we chatted about? I think they might be a good fit. What do you think? So the action side of things is where we get a little bit concerned. Taking that action a little bit further. Taking that step a little bit further. We have all this information about us. So if you are in business and you are offering whatever you offer, your first port of call is, what's my offer? What does my offer do? And what's my offer, aimed at? Who is it aimed at? Where do those people hang out? Where are those people that I might find them? Do I have any contacts in my profile, in my immediate family, in my friends, in the extended community that are in contact with where those people I want to be referring from or referring and getting noticed by? Is there any contacts that I can leverage within that? And that way you start to grow. That way you start to think, okay, it's a little bit daunting. And I did the same with this. This is completely new for me. This is me looking at, my business growing into a slightly different format and, chatting to this chap. He was like, well, if you haven't got a newsletter and you haven't got this, well, who's your email provider? How are you getting people in? Do you have a sign-up form on your website? Do you have this? And he was like, no. And what do you mean newsletter provider? Who's going to host my emails? And it was basically, leave it with me. I'll send you a little bit of a rundown of what these are, the different costs involved, and how many, they can kind of give you before you have to start paying like a bit more premium to use it. So I'm really good at seeing somebody external and going, that's silly, why haven't you got that? That's silly, why haven't you got that? And then I looked at my website last night for my my core business as a physio and went, oh crap, I haven't actually even put, pixels on that. I haven't got any idea if people come to my website because I've redone it. I haven't actually done it. I've kind of had it there, but it's not really telling me anything. It's not showing me that, my metapixel is picking up when people land on my page. My form and my link to my form was broken because I switched providers. I had to update those different things. So it's kind of a good reminder that sometimes as a business owner or as a business person, we see things very clearly when it's looking at other people. We don't see it as clearly when it's ourselves. So that's how I spent my evening last night. Was like, okay, can people actually sign up for my newsletter? Can people, if they click on this, does it go where I want it to go? If people are coming to my website, do they see what it is I offer? Is it clear? And have they got somewhere to take action from there? And that's basically it. You have a product, you have a service. the chaos of running a business is huge. We have this, we need a website, we need a host, we need, domain listing, we need email, we need obviously our business insurance, and then we need to build our offer, and then our offer has to go somewhere, and then we need, activation for payment services, and will the payment service go to the right account, blah, 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 blah. The list is endless, and it can be chaotic. So sitting down and getting a couple of the basics right. We don't need a website that's all singing all bells and whistles and offers that are all in place. Yes, we need something basic, but we also need to know, can people find us? Once people can find us, and this is basically how I built this system, my Chaos Coffee and Clarity service was, if somebody comes and they land on my website, do they understand what I offer? And okay, if I do this, can they get there? Can they actually buy this product? Can they book with me? Can they then get what I've asked or what I'm saying they can? And I've gone through that clarity and made it quite succinct, and then made sure the back end links so that if they click on that, it goes to where it should. That's all you need. And then from there, we need, how do people find that? How are we attracting people, and how are we attracting customers to that? Because if you've got this great big website that looks fabulous and it's got all the bells and whistles and it does this and it does that, but you've got no clients, then you're basically not running a business that's profitable and not running a business where you're able to get clients in. We need to have a little bit of balance on how to do that. So this is part of where I am now. I've kind of built my website, I've built a couple of offers, I've got them all linked where they should be, and now I'm in the process of building my presence, giving you some information, offering you a way to sign up if you're interested on the website. And that way I will hopefully grow my presence, in which case it will then lead to more people knowing about me and thinking that, she might be quite interesting, or she talks a load of codswallop, and go on from there. So clarity is basically the missing piece. When you've got all the chaos in the beginning and you're thinking, where do I get? Yes, we need to sit down and sort certain bits out. We need to have somewhere where somebody can find us. We need to have something where someone can see what we do. We need to have something where we have an offer that somebody can buy, or a newsletter, or some way to connect with us. It can be, which is kind of common these days, in Insta, in the DMs, people might just directly message you. You then need to have somewhere where you can grow that presence, build up a bit of a following, whether it is just on social media. And any marketing person that's worth their salt will say social media is great, social media is fabulous, you can grow it, but you don't own those people. Whereas if you've got an email list and you're actually attracting people who will then give you their email details, you then have your own list, your own database, which means that you have a lot more control of what you have. And if social media and Facebook or Instagram go down tomorrow, you haven't lost everybody. Whereas if they're on your email list, they're yours. So I hope that helps you. It's easy to get swamped about how to do, and I know I have spent umpteen times just dead and going, I've got 100 things to do. Think about, my easiest way of looking at it is what do I actually want to achieve today? What is it? What's my goal for this week? Do I want to get my website sorted? Do I want to get an offer done? Do I want to make sure that everything's connected at the back end? Do I want my automation, that word, correct? And then pick the top 3. Okay, I need, if my offer's going live on Friday, I need to make sure my sale page works. I need to make sure it connects to my offer, and I need that offer to connect to my payment site. That's it. Does that talk to that? Does that talk to that? Great. If somebody signs up, what's going to happen? And they go to a thank you page. That's all you need. And then that thank you page needs something that alerts you that something's happened. Keep it simple. Don't worry about everything else. Just think, okay, if I want my offer live this week, what needs to happen? If I want my newsletter live this week, what needs to happen? Do that job. I hope that this has helped you. It will be a weekly chat, up to 20 minutes or so, 10, 15, 20 minutes chats, nothing high, and just a coffee and chat, which I'm going to go and grab mine because I forgot to bring it over when I started this. So thank you for joining me, thank you for listening, and I shall see you next week on Chaos, Coffee and Clarity.